岁月、环境、规则 ，LPL 在不断改变。6年中，有许多人问我，你为什么还在坚持？这局游戏对你究竟意味着什么？
全军出击！
我见过最美的风景，也听过最热烈的欢呼。为了所有这些，我愿意付出一切。
这局游戏是一段旅途，有人中途停留，也有人会做到最后，而终点只不过是另一个起点。
50的血量，50的血量！
我不走那么多是非曲折，这局游戏赢就对了。
이번 게임의 낭만은 0부터 100처럼 무명에서부터 이름을 날리는 것이다.
我从来都没有后悔过自己走过的路。 这局游戏的魅力就在于创造奇迹。
많은 사람들이 전설을 보는 것에 열광하지만 다른 사람들이 그 뒤에서 흘리는 땀에 대해서는 잘 보지 못합니다. 하지만 이러한 땀이 없었다면 저희는 다시 이곳으로 돌아오지 못했을 겁니다.
欢迎来到英雄联盟。
会变的是人和环境，不变的是游戏最后的胜利画面。
我明白，这场游戏就是成王败寇。
但是不到最后，我不会放弃对王冠的追逐。
这局游戏需要牺牲，无私奉献，去成就团队的胜利。
他还需要领袖，不管遇到什么困难，都和同伴一起扛下去。
是我最喜欢的玩具。
LPL 需要年轻的力量，是时候让我们来接管比赛了。
想成为这场游戏的主角吗？打败我吧！我们的时代还远没有结束。
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the English broadcast of the Chinese LPL. It is week 1, day number 5, and we have 3 exciting matches to be played today, 2 of which we will be broadcasting live at the Shanghai Super Brand Mall Arena, one of which unfortunately will not be on the English broadcast, but will be from Hangzhou at the LGD Arena. All the players are getting ready, and we're about to get into these matches very shortly, and they're going to be great matches nonetheless. Hello everyone, I'm Matthew Stewart. Joining me tonight on the analyst desk is the ever so handsome Brento Raz Mohammed, as well as the not so blue anymore Zach Rusty Pie. How are you two doing today?
Still a little bit blue, but I'm pretty good, pretty excited to get into this one, Fish.
Well, make sure you don't have your Monday blues, because it's not Monday. We have 3 amazing matches to be played here today. Speaking of which, before we break down those matches, let's first take a look at the standings, as well as the matches that have already been played. I know that you two really want to talk about the matches we had yesterday. Yesterday we had OMG going against Team WE, the 2 Dynasty teams taking place. What were your thoughts on that match, as well as Fun Plus Phoenix playing, you know, pretty well yesterday, taking out Snake at their home arena in Chongqing?
The first set, of course, the WE set, surprised me just a little bit because Xie popped off. Xie was an incredible player there. The reason why it surprised me is because we didn't get to see Condi that day. We got to see Melon, a green jungler at the time. Yep. He made a few mistakes, but Xie made up for it.
Yeah, Xie was fantastic. He should never see Zoe ever again. In the Battle of the Dynasties, it felt very one-sided when WE just dismantled them. The second set, however, Snake against Fun Plus Phoenix was everything else and more. It just consistently delivered. It was back and forth. We had Urgots in the top lane. Anything a boy could dream of was in that set.
Yes, please watch it if you didn't get the chance to. Check out the VOD because that was exceptional. I really loved it because once you get to the later portions of the game, you got to see a little bit of the mistakes coming out of Fun Plus Phoenix, so it turned into a really scrappy set. Crystal had a fantastic set. Flandre had a fantastic set. Unfortunately, it just wasn't going to be showcasing a win for Snake. They come off with their first loss in their Chongqing Stadium.
I know that you were enjoying it, Raz, because we had to tell you to be quiet a little bit because it's going to be picked up by the casters while they were casting that game. But let's get straight into the matches that we have today. As we mentioned earlier, there'll be 3 matches being played, 2 of which will be live from the Shanghai Super Brand Mall Arena. First up is going to be Top taking on RNG. RNG, one of the more dominant teams in the LPL, going against Top, who haven't looked too good lately.
Yeah, honestly, TOP, I'm not sure what the expectation expectations will be for this roster, how they're going to perform. There is still question marks there, but we know one thing about them, and that is that we've seen the roster before. And you do know how they play, the things that they enjoy. Demacia Cup, a good example of it. They like Baron just a little bit. It's going to be an interesting set. I'm also looking towards set 2 as something that stands out as an exciting one for me, one that I would be looking towards.
Yeah, Invictus Gaming going up against Rogue Warriors, which is going to be a fun one. We've seen a bit of Rogue Warriors playing a little bit. It's fun to see Doinby showcase his synergy with Flawless. There are a few question marks about that, but Flawless came out with an acceptable Lee Sin play. Yeah,
this is the game that you should watch today if you're going to pick one. Definitely match of the day. And I know that we, even talking about this beforehand, have different predictions if we were to throw them out. We're not going to just yet, but we do have different thoughts on this, and it's just an exciting individual match.
And that is the match of the day, so to speak, one of the more exciting matches. There is one more game that unfortunately will not be covered on the English broadcast. It will be running at the same time as the second match, Rogue Warriors against IG. It will be Suning Gaming taking on LGD at LGD's Arena live from Hangzhou. However, let's touch on this very briefly since they won't hear too much from you guys today.
Yeah, Suning Gaming are hot fire. They're a team that you should be watching. You won't get to see them today, but keep your eyes peeled on this team. I have a feeling that they'll be fighting for the 3rd spot in their respective conference.
Yeah, and if we're talking about fire, there's got to be a fire lit underneath LGD because they don't want to lose their 2nd set in their home stadium. They at least want to come up with a win in week 1.
Yeah. Although we will not be broadcasting that match live here in the English broadcast, tomorrow we'll be able to bring you guys a quick recap of what happened in that game at least. But let's get straight into the matches here today. And I know you guys really want to talk about the opening match, Top against RNG, but first off, we have to address something. Tanks in the bottom lane. The support tank meta is kind of getting out of hand in the first week of the LPL.
Go, Raz.
I will. The best thing about it is because a lot of people expect a Resolve start for a lot of these supports, but they're coming out with an Inspiration tree primary and then Resolve secondary. A lot of the reason, of course, you get to see the creative spellbook users. You get to see them swapping between Ignite initially, so they have the pressure in lane. Then they go towards the Exhaust, or more often TP, honestly, so they have more map pressure. But what I love coming into this is, of course, with the Inspiration primary, you get the buff to the stats themselves. So it was going to be, if you have primary Resolve into Inspiration secondary, then you just have that 130 bonus HP. Now if you have Inspiration first, you get the 145, you add the 100 bonus you get from Celestial Body, and you come into level 1 with 245 HP, which is pretty bonkers.
Yeah, that's the craziest thing about this trend. You're going to see only tank supports primarily now in the LPL and in every single league in the world, because you can run Inspiration, you can run Resolve, you get the stats of both, you get a stopwatch, you get boots if you want. Supports don't run that though, because they get extra HP, and you don't necessarily have a problem with losing 10% of your damage before 10 minutes as a support, because you're a support, and it just doesn't matter. Your role is to not die to protect people, and that's why the tank supports are so prevalent right now. And they have switched from Resolve tree. It started with Aftershock. You no longer need Aftershock. You can just run Teleport as Shen support, because why not? It's available to you.
That's why, honestly, the supports of Tahm, Kench, Alistar running amok, 100% presence rate coming out of Tahm, Kench, 94 with Alistar, with pretty ridiculous win rates coming from both of them. And so we get to see if those even get to see play today, and maybe they go towards the Braum. You get the same benefits out of that one as well as the Shen.
Well, we'll have to see what's going to take place between those tank supports later on. We'll probably see a lot of them throughout today's matches. But I just want to get you guys' thoughts quickly on the first match of the day. Top against RNG. Everyone knows RNG. We've seen them play already. But Top, kind of a new team. They look like they've been struggling a little bit in their first match. What do you guys think?
I mean, immediately, I know we talked about the tree so heavily, and it's mostly because we have 2 tank engaged players in the bottom lane position of Ming and Cat. So that's a lot of focus just going to be there between the both bottom lanes. How do they transfer their presence to the mid lane, because they really need to get moving early on.
Yeah, Cat and QiuQiu for TOP is a place that you've always got to look towards, and mid lane Ggoong has been having a fantastic last split, and hopefully can carry that through now and continue to improve.
But we're going to get into Champion Select for that first game very quickly. For now though, let's send it over to our casters, Pulse as well as Clement.
卡塔和麻香锅应该都是10日前打野吧。这几天，虽然现在才打的不多，但也打过嘛。然后的话，香锅的话就可能我很需要去配合他吧。然后卡塔的话就比较属于那种自己玩的。
Thanks so much, guys. Welcome back. It's me, Pulse, and I've got my main man, Clement, here as well. How you doing, Clement? It's my first time casting with you as well. I'm pretty excited.
I'm really glad to find out that I'm actually your main man.
Well, you didn't know that before the cast. Yeah, I only put it on for the show, ladies and gentlemen. But no, super excited about this game as well, because we've got Top playing, and yes, Top currently on the 0-2 lose streak, or if you include the last bit, 14, but we don't talk about that. But they do have the top lane coming in and jungle, which could change up the lineup, so we'll see how they go in this game.
Exactly, and the narrative we have for Top is that they have to bring something new to the table, because last split they weren't a really good team. They were actually bottom of the table, and this matchup is very likely going to be a first place versus 7th place matchup of the Eastern Conference. So the question we have for Top is what is new, and today we're going to see part of that answer in Moyu in their new top laner, and also XX in the jungle.
Yeah, the glaring issue here is that they're going up against RNG. Now, if you're going to test a lineup like this, it's like, okay, you can go up against the top of the table and just see how you go, but it's more in terms of growth in this one, Clement. Like, I don't expect Top to come out and be like, okay, we've subbed in Moyu, who we saw last split, now we've got XX, and I was like, now we're going to win this game. Like, this is still growth and what the team's going to look like moving forwards.
Yeah, exactly. But we can talk about why these players were subbed in. I think Moyu is really different from Lies in terms of his champion pool. He's actually more of a bruiser type of person, where he plays a lot of Jax and Kennen, and I think that alleviates a lot of Top's draft problems. Previously, we saw they were banning Ornn and Camille on blue side, both of these first pickable champions, and that really hindered their ability to shut down enemy compositions.
On the opposite side, though, RNG, it is worth talking about them because, I mean, they look strong right now. I mean, to be fair, they haven't had a huge challenge just yet, but are you expecting them to be #1 in their group, Clement?
Exactly. I believe so as well, and today I was hoping to see Karsa, but I feel like they're moving back more into the Mlxg kind of composition. We just heard Xiaohu talk about the difference between these two junglers, and he said he feels like Karsa kind of does his own thing, which I think we can definitely tell from the games which they played against IG that they still have much better synergy with Mlxg.
Which is weird, right? Because it's double-edged. If the jungler's doing their own thing, it's like, great, I don't need to micromanage them, and then they can just like go off and go into top lane, bottom lane, whatever. But if it's at the point where he doesn't have the synergy yet, then absolutely, being able to talk to someone like Mlxg, make it work, that's the reason why he's starting in game 1. You'd have to assume, as we get into Champion Select, Top versus RNG, and pretty standard bans coming out, so Ryze, Alistar from Top on the opposite side, Azir and Kalista.
Yeah, Alistar should be the highly contested pick. We saw Ming grab an MVP on that one, and also Top has been first picking this champion, really important champion to Cat as well. Interesting to note that Ryze was also banned out. Xiaohu has actually played Ryze in all 3 of his games against IG, and during the interview he said, okay, if you give me Ryze, I'm going to pick him. He's that good of a champion. Then he later had to backtrack a little bit on his own stream. He's like, nah, I'm throwing it up. I'm definitely picking Veigar. You know, just kidding, boys.
That is hilarious. Well, they've taken that away this time, so he's going to have to show us something different. Maybe it is the Veigar, probably not. Kog'Maw will join the final ban for Top, while on the opposite side, RNG will take away Jarvan for the jungle. So XX is going to have to bring something else out. And to be honest, when you see new junglers come into the LPL, it's always Jarvan. Their first pick is always Jarvan. It's always prioritized, so he's going to have to do something different.
Well, XX is actually pretty well known for his Shyvana play. He was also the first player to bring out the Hecarim during Demacia Cup, so there's definitely some surprises up his sleeves. We're going to see what he picks into. Varus as the first pick for QiuQiu.
What do you think about a first pick Varus? As in, like, first off, the fact that is AD carry priority, and second, that it's Varus.
Yeah, I feel like it's an interesting pick because Abel typically goes for more of the late game hyper carry picks, so it's definitely a lane that he can sort of punish. And also, I feel like Varus is just a fine champion. He's very good in lane. He brings you that engage potential as well. I'm okay with, like, first picking him.
On the opposite side, Camille locked in. I mean, no real surprise if she's left open, then everyone's going to pick Camille nowadays. It's pretty much the strongest pick in the top lane, at least for the LPL. Doesn't seem like the rest of the regions quite have the same priority on her as we do.
This is going to give a very good setup for Moyu. We know that one of the traditional counters is that Jax pick, so he could possibly slip that in and have a showdown in the top lane.
Ooh, that's an Ornn lock-in as well. That has actually been locked in for RNG, so both of them can't be top laners.
Yeah, this is really interesting because we've seen a lot of flex picking among these champions. So currently, Camille can actually be played in the jungle, and we have actually seen Mlxg play that champion in terms of his streaming. So it's a possible kind of throw-off. So they might decide to finally lock in where the positions are in the second phase of the draft.
Maybe. That's definitely more LCK for you. I've seen some of that going over there. Top will lock in the Gangplank, though, for most likely top lane. Tahm, Kench as well, down to support, getting that priority for Cat. Braum is left open, however, if RNG want to lock it in now, because you'd have to think it will be banned away on the next phase of bans from top.
Yep, currently the best champion pick we have into Tahm Kench is the Braum. If you're going Shen, or Alistar's obviously banned out, if you're going Shen, you can't really engage into the Tahm Kench, so Braum is probably going to be the pick here, and they also go for a very safe AD carry in Ezreal. This is not something that Abel is traditionally known for, but you know, the guy has the mechanics. He can definitely play this pick. I will say that right now it looks like RNG are just amassing strong picks. Like, they have Camille, that's strong. Ornn, Ezreal as well. That does obviously give the chance for top to take away the Braum now to just avoid going against 2 super strong champions in the bottom lane. Zoe, of course, getting banned out. Actually, the fact that Zoe got banned out in second phase is surprising to me. Yeah, if I'm RNG, I'm definitely banning that champion out, because a lot of the times when you're going, like, your first place team, going in against what's possibly a 7th place team, you don't want the additional possibility of Zoe just picking up a teleport in the mid lane and making a macro play that's unpunishable. I think that's the big thing about Zoe and why she's consistently banned in competitive. We've seen IG Rookie use that double teleport to instantly create a 4v3, 4v2 against opponent bot lanes, and that's just, you can't prepare for that kind of stuff. So I think it's a good insurance policy to just cut that out. Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm still having flashbacks of that OMG game of Icon just getting blasted every single second of the laning phase. So glad it's gone and taken out of there. Malzahar, the first ban from top, followed by, well, we'll find out in about 17 seconds, but Rengar has been taken away by XX. You said he's a Shyvana player, so the fact that we're taking so many junglers away does maybe push him towards that direction. Yeah, I'm also very interested in what the mid laner picks are going to be, because currently we see all of the big 4 mid laners being banned out. Azir, Ryze, Zoe, and Malzahar are no longer on the table. So the other picks that we've been seeing for Ggoong especially has been Taliyah, and for Xiaohu, we've actually seen some kind of weird stuff. You know, he's been trying the Veigar, he's been trying the Lissandra. So we're definitely going to see some new meta picks here. Or he could just play the Vladimir, which, if he's going the Vladimir, this could still be a top lane Vlad Camille jungle and Ornn support. They could do these swaps. So yeah. I'm not 100% sure like where these positions are going to be locked into.
Flex.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a question that we'll have answered once it goes back over to RNG for the final pick. But top, you know, hovering over the Orianna, and to be honest, Orianna in this situation is very much a catch-all. It's just like, well, we actually don't know who the enemy mid laner is right now, so let's just lock in Orianna and hope for the best.
Yep, we've seen a very poke-oriented Orianna from Ggoong going that Comet, and it's always a nice pick into the Vladimir. You can keep in at arm's length, and he has a bit of trouble during that laning phase, but the Vladimir might not be mid, which is something they need to consider.
100%. Well, Orianna will do fine either way, I'm sure. Top. Final pick was Sejuani over to XX, so he's actually just going super meta instead of going towards his own pick.
Alright, so Camille's definitely going into the jungle, and we see the Rumble in the top lane. Or wait a minute, is that a Rumble jungle?
It's still
Camille, it's Camille.
Yeah. Okay, we're actually going to have to now wait this down until 20 seconds when everything is actually locked in, because they might actually just try and throw us off, but I think the Ornn should be support now alongside Abel's Ezreal.
Yep. Alright, so it's kind of how I predicted it. It's kind of a flex pick where you do put Camille in the jungle. We've seen Mlxg definitely practicing this pick a lot, and we've also seen it in the LCK, just like Pulse has said. This is going to create a lot of pressure on Moyu. As a newcomer to the table, I'm not sure he's going to be able to hold this lane very well, because we've seen a lot of top tower dives with his composition Rumble against the Gangplank matchup. You can always push him in and look for that tower diving potential, and especially when you have the Camille, I feel like that's going to be a very difficult lane to look after for top.
It's actually a really cool dynamic, because typically the Camille is in the top lane, but it's still Camille in the 2v2, as it were, in the top and jungle role. So expect to see many a dive in the top lane, and overall it seems I like the composition that RNG had, not only because of the flexibility they had from the picks, but also just how all the lane matchups are going to go.
Yeah, I really like the Ornn support thing, because what they did was they baited out the Braum ban, and Braum is actually a very good Ornn counter. So they actually made top ban a good counter against themselves, and they're going to have a lot of pressure in that bot lane just because Ornn is so easy to set up against these immobile carries like Varus.
So let's start listing some of the problems that top have had so far, and then see if they can remedy some of them in this game, because we had to take a look at the tools and what they've been struggling with, right? And the problem is, once they hit 20 minutes, they always just default to the same strategy. So they get out of laning phase, they look at Baron. If that didn't work, then they just kind of sit there and don't know really what to do.
Yeah, I think the deepest issue for TOP is that their laning strength has always been very questionable. They're the weakest team in the LPL at that 10-minute mark. So after those 10 minutes end, they need to find ways to get back into the game, and that often entails very, very risky plays. We've seen this play against, I think it was SNG, where they did 3-for-1 turret objective trades. They were just trying to find something to get themselves on the board, and that's been a huge issue for them.
And it's even harder when you have the crowd literally shouting RNG Xiaohu at you. So through your headphones, your soundproof headphones, you're hearing the arena erupt. So literally everything is stacked against Top right now. But honestly, we just need to look at these guys and see what growth they can show in this game, because RNG, what we're looking for them is essentially a 2-0. I think anything less than 2-0 here would be seen as failure.
Yeah, it would be very shocking, and I feel like for RNG, this is a time to test out their rosters. You know, they have 480 carries. You can bring Y in it for a game. You can let Karsa show his face from time to time, and just take it from there. So if we're looking at the screen right now, 84% of the vote going over to RNG.
Unsurprising. However, 16% is actually more than I would have expected from Top in there from the fans, but regardless, we'll start this one off on the bottom side for Mlxg. First time I'm seeing Camille, at least in the LPL, in the jungle.
So to recap kind of what happened in the level 1, we saw, I believe it was a 4-man invade coming in from RNG, but on the flip side, Top also got some wards down into RNG's jungle, so both should be aware of these jungle paths. I think overall this kind of benefits Gangplank a little bit more, so just that he knows that he's not going to get ganked from Mlxg.
It's actually funny that the ward just faded on the side of Top for the blue buff, as in RNG's ward on the blue buff. So I'm not sure if they actually know they're on top side. Regardless, it's not going to really matter to Mlxg. My question is now whether he goes top lane with the doubles, maybe goes to a Scuttle Crab or picks up another camp and tries to pressure the lane. It does seem like Letme's actually pushing up though.
Yep, trying to get some information on the Sejuani. We've seen that recently Sejuanis have been going back to the Aftershock after you get the extra attack speed from the Resolve tree and the secondary.
Junglers are pretty aware of both where they are right now. Mlxg doesn't have the level 3. He didn't go for an extra camp. So Top XX is actually slightly ahead, though it's not really going to matter because Camille.
Yeah, they were definitely looking to leverage the pushing power in the top lane, try to get a flank off there, and that came out pretty well for XX. He's going to pick up 2 extra camps from that.
It seems like Mlxg was just trying very hard to do something in that early game when maybe necessarily didn't need to. I understand trying to exploit your opponent. Like, Mlxg is the type of guy who will get up in his face and try and mess with him, but didn't really pay off in the end.
Mlxg is one of my favorite streamers to watch. He's so crazy that sometimes he actually turns around and becomes brilliant. He'll go for these extended level 1 fights. You'll see him level 2 at 4 minutes and still trying to get an extra buff from the enemy jungle. And that's just the type of guy he is, and why he's built up so much of a fan base for RNG.
I mean, he's one of the very few players you watch who makes a play and you're like, this isn't going to work out. Why did that work, you know?
Exactly.
And it's actually just so jarring for a lot of people who play against him because he just goes so deep. It's actually one of the reasons why I loved watching Cat last split, because the man is actually just insane. Like, he'll just run at you. Even if he's the only person on his side of the map, he'll run at you anyway and just assume that they have vision control so they don't just kill him.
Ooh, this is another under-leveled invade coming from Mlxg. He's done this twice now. Actually has a pretty high chance of being punished here if the bot lane can constantly shove RNG in.
Which they are doing right now. Ornn's going to get the double knockup, as you said, and QiuQiu will have to back away. He's very low. Mlxg, if he lands this, he's pretty much a dead man. That's a good save from Cat. Has to flash away. 1 for the price of 2 on that flash, and QiuQiu is actually staying.
Yeah, that was a good hold from Chocho there. He did not need to expend his flash, so can still probably hang around here.
But the poke is continuing. Mlxg, is he going to be merciful? Looks like he's backing away into his own jungle to take his Gromp. And bot lane will continue poking away, as an Ezreal was wont to do.
Yep, and we can see Abel now just picking up the mini red pot. This is something that can swing a lot of matchups when you're bringing Kleptomancy. It definitely tilts more than the matchup. Let's just leave it at that.
100%. I mean, it's a bunch of extra AD early. It lasts for a pretty sizable amount of time as well.
Yeah, I think it lasts for, I believe it's 40 or 45 seconds, something like that.
Scaling up to 90, yeah.
You can definitely get a level 2 all-in with that. And the fact you can just pick it up at level 1, I feel like it's pretty jarring in the lane.
Yeah, 100%. Well, for now, it looks like Abel actually went back to base. He's picked up his tier, which he really wanted to do. But QiuQiu, it does give them the priority here to actually push the lane back in. Actually gives the CS lead over to QiuQiu.
Yep. So far, I feel like Top has actually played this very well. They've thwarted all the offenses that Mlxg has been trying to do, and they've had a pretty safe top lane overall for Moyu.
It's also worth mentioning that Ming has taken Unsealed Spellbook on the Ornn and just smited that minion. I was very confused for a second.
Yeah. Ornn as a pick, I feel like he's just so powerful in that bot lane. You get the... There's not a single champion I can think of that really has a triple knockup. Like, most champions would be happy if they had 2. He has 3.
That is true, actually. Like, in terms of knockups, he does have, he has a bunch. Like, most champions have multiple forms of CC in, like, the support role, such as Thresh, but I guess Thresh would be the closest, because he's got a displace on his Q, a displace on his E.
Yeah. But I feel like Ornn's even better because he has that point where he's too difficult to kill.
Yeah.
So far, I really like RNG's compositions. They have the Vladimir and the Rumble into double immobile carries from TOP. So if we were talking about the mid to late game team fights, it's actually going to be very difficult for both Chocho and Ggoong to survive the same team fight. And Moryu's kind of in the same position as well. A lot of these carries, they have difficulties against Camille if they can be locked in that Hextech ultimatum and the equalizer coming down, and you have a Vladimir in the team fight. I don't really see how all 3 of them survive that.
I mean, one of them's going to survive because they've got Cat on Tahm Kench, but the rest of them, not long for this world. We've got a small invade coming out from top, though, onto this blue buff. It's going to be smited away by XX, but Xiaohu is rotating, a flash away. Mlxg almost got on top of his face. So top will get out alive with the blue buff, but down the flash.
Yep, still good play coming in here. Again, leveraging that bot lane. We talk a lot about Abel in our first day opening of the LPL. He's really known for these Twitch and Kog'Maw picks. He was a big early adopter of the what's the precision mastery that gives you extra attack speed? A lethal temple.
Yeah.
He used that a lot before when everyone was still going on to press the attack. So that's mainly what he's known for. This is going to be one of the first times we actually see his Ezreal. Wonder how that's going to pan out.
So far, it's doing okay, is as far as I would go, because QiuQiu is actually ahead in the farm, even though they got the gank down there as well. It looked like they were pushing in, so maybe it was just the fact that he was poking so much with Q, didn't get a bunch of minions during the laning phase, but the fact he's actually more than 2 waves down is surprising.
Yeah, and Chocho, he's one of the AD carries where we felt like his champion pool might be a problem, but still has that Varus. Seeing the invade coming in.
Mlxg gets it. Will hook shot away. Moyu also came down in case there was an engagement, but it's now evened up on the blue buffs.
Yep. RNG would actually be stronger in that skirmish, but Ggoong decided to sacrifice some of his minion wave to go over there to the left side of the map to help his teammates out. So that turns out fine for TOP there.
Yeah, he's already losing in terms of farm anyways. Xiaohu is constantly just pushing this one in. He's gone for the stopwatch, as the usual one. Surprisingly, there's not as many stopwatches in this game as we usually have, especially in the LPL. We love our stopwatches. But some teams are moving away from them. WE yesterday actually did not take any at all in their final game.
It's definitely more of an inspiration thing. See if you're going to go in that tree. If you're going in that tree, the chances are you're likely taking stopwatch.
But the funny thing was some of them were going inspiration but taking some of the other options as well, like minion materializer, for example. But yeah, they're also trying different options. But to be honest, it's still week 1 of every league in the world, so people are still trying to figure out what's optimal on their champions, like what's going to work in the game as well. And especially it being situational, because I'm sure a lot of players change what they're going towards as soon as the final clock is ticking.
Yep. Much. I'm really interested on where TOP is going to find an advantage on the map, because pure laning phase did not suit their composition very well. I feel like if they go into the mid-late game, RNG's composition, just in terms of team fights, is far superior. So they're really going to have to leverage this Sejuani ult and try to get one of the lanes really rolling early.
Speaking of Sejuani, he's actually just soloing the dragon here because they had complete control over the river in terms of vision. There's nothing that RNG can do about it. He didn't even know it was happening. So XX will get his first dragon of the game. It's Ocean as well, which is quite nice in the laning phase.
Yep. XX recognizing that both his mid and bot lane are pushing lanes, just going in solo for that Drake right there. Good map read.
But aside from that, when are RNG going to start turning online looking for fights? Because you have a Rumble comp, so typically it's like, I've got my double penetration items, we're going to go in at this next dragon.
Well, the thing is, I don't feel like they're being pressured to do anything. They can just hold out and wait. The laning phase, like nothing happening in the laning phase is actually perfectly fine for them. So, do they really need to like make things happen? Yeah, they're pretty much just in a defensive posture and make sure this Rumble can constantly push in, make sure the bot lane is not going to die to a dive or a Sejuani gank. And I feel like they're just fine with this current setup.
Especially because it is RNG we're talking about, because then you add the context of it being RNG against Top, and you typically look towards the players of RNG and say they outclass them in terms of mechanics when you get to those team fights. So I'm now looking towards Top because so far they've done a good job, but it's not like their opponent has been at necessary aggro as Xiaohu places down the Hemo Plague on top of Ggoong. Gets a bunch of health back. Looking to clear the wave.
Just looking for a single back right now. And we can see what items Xiaohu picks up for the mid lane. We've been seeing a lot of they call it the salary items here in China.
Salary items.
Yeah, salary items. So the free GP10 regenerations. He's actually going for a more aggressive build right here. Straight proto belt.
It's been a while since I've seen Vladimir just go straight up proto belt, because it was that as soon as Vladimir came into the meta, it was everyone went proto belt. Then it was like, oh, Spirit Visage, fantastic, or just another tank item. But he's actually gone back here.
It's very interesting. This is signaling that Xiaohu feels like there might be a big team fight incoming from TOP's side, so you want that extra strength.
Ooh, Moyu aggressing on Letme. He places down the equalizer, forcing Moyu into the bush, and XX completely whiffing the ultimate. Letme decided to go in though, so he's probably going to die for his troubles. Flashes away into the Zhonya's hourglass.
Dodges the stun.
And he's dead, but here comes Cat and QiuQiu as well to close the noose. And that's first blood to Top.
Yeah, and we can see some of the remnants of how Top started their previous season 4-0. They were really known for this type of lane swap plays. Let's watch, can Ggoong survive this?
Absolutely
Doesn't look like
not.
it.
However, it's a question of whether both of these players get out of live, and Xiaohu's going to tank the tower for him, so they're good on that end. But this kill on the top lane is being converted into a tower, whereas on the opposite side of the map, Abel's trying to do what he can here, but there's another minion wave way far back behind him. So Top's actually going to pick up the kill and the tower.
Yeah, that's a very good leverage of a pushing bot lane right there. Also, in the middle, we could see from Mlxg, that's one of the reasons why Camille is such a favored jungle pick, is because you can juggle tower aggro very easily when you go into your Hextech ultimatum.
Yeah, makes you untargetable, but now he doesn't have that for this trade against XX, who is trying to take away the red buff. Letme's coming down from top lane. Cat is here to assist the getaway driver. He's going to hop over the wall. The Herald might be on the docket for them. Mid lane's only now just coming back in to play, so no, Cat will go back to base. Abel just lost huge most of his health. Moyu flashing into Abel, forces the flash out from Abel himself.
Yeah, and I actually really like the Gangplank into the Ezreal matchup. Now, most of people think like Ezreal is kind of a poke champion, but he still needs the auto attacks.
But here comes the punish. Mlxg down into the bottom lane, tactical sweep, and he is very much a dead man.
Overstayed his welcome. They didn't have enough vision on the bottom side of the map. And Camille sweeps in for a very clean kill there.
Yep, it was good up until it wasn't. Wanted to see him just back away from that play, because Top, it's like step 1 is definitely there for them, but then step 2 usually isn't. Because as soon as they get that step 2 down, then I think Top could actually challenge a lot of these teams in the early game, because the fact that they got that kill into a tower was perfect for them.
Yeah, exactly. They just needed Moyu to play further back. They didn't have vision of the bot side. Play kind of conservatively, and that would be all fine for them. Now I feel like the next big objective of contestation should be this Herald buff. Both sides are going to look for this, especially I feel like TOP, now that they have that Triforce completed already on that Gangplank, they can actually do a lot of damage. And we also know that Gangplank is really a really great champion to play around those vision edges around this riverside when the enemy needs to walk in.
We are hitting spikes across the board. It was the double down into the Leandries from Letme, still sitting on his magical footwear. He's picked up a Phoenix Codex as well. So both teams are in fighting shape. I probably would still give it over to RNG though, just ever so slightly, mainly because of the Proto Belt that was picked up by Xiaohu.
Well, this is kind of the dream situation for Gangplank, kind of like he was never tower dove in the top lane, easily got his Triforce at 13 minutes, which is incredibly early, and I think they will be able to leverage just that lead and kind of bring it into the top lane there. Even though Gangplank wasn't here, his ult is still up for this engagement.
Xiaohu just getting linked up there, plus the slow from Cat. Protobelt's to not safety, he gets gobbled up, spat into the team. Sanguine Pool will keep him healthy for a couple more seconds. In comes the Ram. That gets a knock up on the bottom side of the fight, but Top pretty much just want the disengage here. They got their Herald, that's all they really need.
Yep. RNG able to escape with the help of Ming's ultimate right there.
That's pretty much that. Top are honestly just getting objectives for free, and I know that, Clement, you said that RNG are going into this defensive stance, but it feels like they're giving up a lot.
They certainly are, and the next big objective for them is kind of the mid lane right now. I feel like they have to make a big play just to defend this objective. If they let that mid lane go down, I feel like the ball's really in Top's court from then on. Statistically, if you take the first 3 outer turrets first, your win rate goes up to about 70%.
But then you add in the factor of the fact that Top seems to be cursed. Have
well,
not won a game
Saps don't lie, man. I mean, if you take your first 3 towers, it's still a huge boon to the team. So, and now they have the Herald. They're definitely going to look for that push.
Now, RNG are attempting to go for this dragon. Has been spotted by that ward down from Top. And XX, he might be able to go for a hit and run because Cat's over the wall.
Don't
looking
think
for
they
the
should
smite.
try to fight
Nope.
this.
Get me out. All right, we're good.
That was really smartly played. They were down in ultimate from the cannon barrage, so they were just looking for that chance steal. Didn't get it, backed out safe, so great play there.
Yeah, pretty much no downside, just to shove Sejuani over the wall and give it a shot.
That's a great idea for the over-the-wall Devourer right there.
Now pretty much just waiting on the next fight. There's no big objective for a while. As you said, mid lane's going to be essentially the point of contest for both teams, but Herald, still waiting for that one to go down. It's in the hands of XX.
Yep, it's already down to half the timer. Next big team fight is going to happen middle. If TOP can get that mid turret, I actually think they're in a very good position for this game, but RNG is going to be looking for that fight. So what you want to watch is how far Xiaohu can get the lane pushing in the bot lane, and if he can get that back line flank with his Proto Belt.
Meanwhile, Moyu back into the top lane, just farming away. They've got the very early Triforce, even went for the Ancient Coin on top of that, so just kind of expecting to join up with his team a bunch, I guess.
It's definitely been a good game for Gangplank. Was not harassed at all. We've actually seen the magical footwear when you bring that and you get ganked before 10 minutes and you can't run away from the rumble. That's one of the worst feelings in the world. He managed to avoid all of that, and he's sitting pretty now.
Yeah, it was literally just that one gank earlier. And now he's been sitting pretty. So this is a great game for Gangplank, and pretty much anyone who wants to farm, including Xiaohu. It's just a waiting game. I'm also waiting for the Varus to really turn online, because he's got the Guinsoo's. So he's gotten over that hump, but that was a relatively safe pick into the Ezreal. That was picked after the Varus.
Right, and we see that they're definitely setting up for that big mid push right now. So Abel really has to move his position into the mid lane. So does Letme.
Abel, it's actually gone ahead and farm now. I'm wondering where he picked up all that farm, because he was definitely down 2 waves, and now he's up by at least 3.
Yeah, Abel's able to split push against Moyu for a while in the bot lane, while Varus was taking towers with the rest of his team.
Here's the Herald going down into bottom lane. Ming's in river. That's now going to be spotted by RNG. QiuQiu's already here, so it'll be 3 on 2 from what I can see.
Yeah, it's kind of disappointing when they get
make something happen though. In comes the equalizer. Xiaohu falling down to Ggoong, and he should be dead here. Needs one more transfusion, and Xiaohu will run it back into the mid lane. And will probably take the mid lane on top of this unless Moyu can get there in time. Bot lane is going to be traded, but I mean honestly, mid lane is what counts in this scenario.
Yeah, so that turn of events was definitely in favor of RNG right there. They traded the mid lane for the bot lane tower, and that's always better strategically for RNG. And they also got a kill on top of that. I feel like Top kind of missed a couple opportunities there. They had a lot of control over the mid lane, and they also had Abel and Letme in the side lanes. They had a clear path of attack in that, didn't really take it, and instead opted for the less favorable trade in the bot lane.
I guess they went for the quote-unquote safer option of something like, oh, we can just shove it in the bot lane, and because we have numbers advantage, we'll take it, no worries. But you've got to know that RNG are going to make a counter-attack somewhere. They've already dived mid lane. You know it's super easy for them to juggle tower aggro, and whether that's a Ggoong thing or it's a top thing, that's really where you start to see the differences between RNG and top.
Yeah, and this kill is actually very crucial for Xiaohu. There really comes that point where Orianna can no longer keep Vladimir at bay, and with a kill and an assist on his score record already, I feel like Xiaohu is going to be able to start his split pushing quite uncontested. There really isn't a member on TOP that can stop Xiaohu.
And it's only going to get worse. It's not like Vladimir scales off, so it's going to be a problem that Top will have to think about for the rest of this game. And for now, Top will still get a bunch of vision advances in the top side, so they'll see Xiaohu if he starts rotating towards this mid lane. Though it's really now this mid lane that's become the pivot point for RNG. They can move into the top side, the bottom side, and start setting up for these next towers, or even get around these next objectives. Next dragon is Cloud, but still that should go over to them as long as they maintain control.
Right, and they're now going into kind of a half-court mode. This is a term that Aaron uses a lot of in his cast, where they're trying to move all of the members and overload them on the top side of the map, kind of force a fight where TOP have to run into them. Now, with Gangplank, you want the enemy team to run into you. If TOP needs to engage on the enemy team, I actually don't feel their composition really supports that well. And especially in this jungle type of area where Rumble can get a great equalizer down, it's going to be very difficult if they lose control of this section. So you can see TOP members trying to push out the mid lane, funnel into the river through that side lane brush right there. Make sure RNG cannot grab an iron grip on that sector.
So in terms of when Top want to do something, should they contest next dragon? Should they be looking to contest right now? Because they're starting to hit double item spikes across the board. That was Essence Reaver for Moyu. Bottom lane just picked up the Wit's End. Mid lane is starting to farm up as well.
Frankly, their best type of scenario is kind of a sieging fight where they can engage enemies from one direction. If Mlxg and Xiaohu are able to get flanks on their compositions, I don't think they can protect all of their carries. There's 3 of them with 0 mobility, so that's going to be very difficult. You really want to close down your side lanes and your flanking opportunities by doing a siege, but if you have Xiaohu already in this split push kind of mode, it's kind of difficult to see where they're going to get an advantage. I feel like their best play might be to get a lane gank, but that's actually happening to them right now.
Yeah, it's happening to Moyu on the bottom side. Exec Ultimatum, just a fish in a barrel. Another kill over to RNG, a nice pick in the bot side.
Yeah, very easy play there for Mlxg. He's also going for that Triforce. Typically, Camille, the problem with this champion is that you need to get some sort of an edge to really sustain your own build, but he's doing fine right now. 1-0 and 2 and going into that Triforce.
You know, on the flip side, Moyu is still following up. Like, yes, he died there, but it's a Gangplank. He gets bigger. Next dragon's going to be Ocean. RNG was able to leverage the kill on the bot side onto Moyu into the dragon. But it's always something that you have to think about as you get later into the game, especially when it's like 3-item GP, 4-item GP, and he starts one-popping your carries.
Yeah, this is actually a really interesting build coming out from Gangplank right now. We're seeing the Essence Reaver being picked up. It's more of a crit build, so this is going to make his Qs hurt a lot more and be better at the split pushing side of things. But in terms of dealing damage to targets like Rumble or Abel, it's going to be a bit more difficult. So this is more like it's a more steady build. You're not so dependent on your barrels landing. I'm kind of interested why he's going to go into this build and if he's going to try to continue to split push, because so far it hasn't really worked out for him.
Mlxg attempting to contest the red. I mean, Mlxg is just trying to contest everything right now, but Moyu, that was a big crit on the Q, so it does do damage. I can tell you that, Clement.
Definitely does. It's more of a split push oriented type of build. The main way that TOP is going to get back into the game, I really feel, is a gank coming from an XX. He really needs to find the time when RNG members are split up and try to force the issue with his ultimate.
Well, this is what you were talking about, the kind of sieging angle that Top want, kind of front to back, but Mlxg always on the side looking for a flank.
Yeah, they really should have done this play when they had the Herald. I'm not so sure about the bot lane trade where they showed 3 members super early and RNG was able to get their lanes, able to get lane priority, especially for the Rumble. So this is kind of a late move that they should have been trying to pulling up at better opportunities, but let's see how it works right now. The problem now is that Xiaohu is going to be coming in from the side with Ghost and also his Proto Belt, so they're going to have to be very aware of that.
I mean, they're very much stagnated because there's too much wave clear on the side of RNG. They've barely scratched the mid lane tower. So now Top have to go back to the drawing board, in which they've gone to the top side. They were like, maybe we get Xiaohu. Actually, to be honest, Xiaohu probably would have killed both of them.
That's actually true.
At least they've gotten the minion wave. And they've essentially just gone back to farming. But it's when does this work for them? You know, it's like they group up, it doesn't work. Okay, we'll go back to farming. They group up, it doesn't work, and it's just the cycle continues.
It's not a very easy composition to force the issue, basically. They can try on the next team fight, but even then, I don't feel like they have a really good chance of winning it. Also, burning a Ghost from Vladimir doesn't really matter now that he has the Ionian boots. That cooldown is only 108 seconds, so not much of a loss for Xiaohu at all.
It's getting to the point where it's playing to not lose versus playing to win for Top. I'm not actually sure if I've seen QiuQiu hit anybody this entire game yet. Because I've seen him get 2 items without him actually hitting a champion. So he might hit very hard, but I don't know, and I don't know if they know either.
Yeah, TOP is not going to get much out of RNG's current allocation of players. They're putting Letme with the group.
And Moyu again is getting caught out. And this time it was in the mid lane, right next to his team. That's also problematic.
TOP thought that they saw Letme backing and want to get some vision around that area. Did not pan out for them.
But as you said, it's a difficult composition to work, but at some point you just kind of need to do something. Because the longer this game goes, RNG is just going to engage on you and then start sieging, and Xiaohu's going to be a monster, one-shot your entire team.
Seeing 1v1 come out here. Not much happening.
If you were the shot caller on top, what would you say right now, Clement?
If I could go back in time, that would help more.
If you go back in time as well. All right, say you're out on a time traveler, and you're put in this situation where you're behind, you have a hard comp to execute.
You siege mid with Herald, you have Cat, so you can do the Abyssal Voyage behind the tower and then pick up the bot lane. I felt like that was the main play that they kind of missed for TOP and could have snowballed them into a much better situation. If this composition was sieging, let's watch this team fight come in first.
This is a potential pick here. Ming getting caught out. He goes down, but Abel cutting around the back line. In comes Xiaohu. A massive ultimate will decimate the front line, and everybody is now scattered from top. XX running it back for the Arctic Assault, but in comes Mlxg flying from the sidelines. A flash onto Moyu. The Hextail ultimatum, making a triple kill for him. Xiaohu chasing down Cat, gets the Ties of Blood down. It should be a transfusion for the kill, and Cat is essentially delaying the inevitable. Mlxg wanted his Quadra.
Yep, and this is the reason why you can't fight in open ground against RNG's composition. They had a 5v4 scenario where they took down Ming and his ultimate, but still lost. Xiaohu coming in was able to deal enough damage to basically kill Ggoong and Chocho on the same rotation.
It just feels bad because we were waiting for this to happen for the last, I would say, 15 minutes of this game. We were like, well, at some point RNG is just gonna win a fight, take a Baron, and then run it down mid. And that's essentially game 1. I just wanted to see that from top, and we keep harping on. We sound like a broken record at this point, Clement, but I totally agree with you. The play needed to happen when top found the advantage in the Rift Herald.
Yeah, because this composition, it really can't deal with threats coming in from different directions. There's too many vulnerable carries that they need to protect, and we're going to see the teamfight again in 3D view.
So start off with Ming getting caught. You're like, excellent. The support's down. His ultimate's okay, but then it's the layering of ultimates.
Flash E onto both of the carries at the same time. Did you see how much damage he did to both of them?
Yep.
Basically insta-killed both of them.
I mean, this is essentially a wombo combo comp, and as soon as you get onto open grounds and Camille can just fly all over the map, then she's going to track down everybody in a losing fight.
Yep, so the next turning point for TOP, I feel like, is kind of a defensive posture. See if they can funnel RNG coming in from the same direction. They have Mlxg right now, though.
Yeah, they've caught out Mlxg, placed down the ultimatum, but it looks like he's the one trapped. Been in the mid lane, everyone is sieging, so Mlxg will die, but this actually might be an inhibitor tower, if not an inhibitor itself, over to RNG, because he was drawing the attention of the entire team of top.
The sacrificial hot pot play, and this leads them straight towards the enemy blue buff, and they can actually continue to push here in the top lane.
The fact that you can just run into the jungle and just come and get me, and we'll just take your mid lane, look towards the top lane, try and siege. But to be honest, RNG have enough time, I think, on the Baron just to wait for Mlxg to come back up and rinse and repeat.
Yep. To be fair, that was not a good play from Mlxg.
What are you talking about? It worked out. They got the mid lane tower.
Well, I don't think he really needed to die there. They definitely could have taken a couple more towers with him alive at this point.
100%. And top will get a consolation prize as the outer mid lane tower. So good timing on that play. Dragon is also up, so top might be able to swing by and nuke it.
We haven't even seen the best combo that RNG can pull off. So we haven't seen the equalizer into the Hexapec ultimatum with Xiaohu flanking. That's going to be spectacular to watch, and I wonder how long TOP's composition can survive that.
I mean, to be honest, the mid lane fight, or rather the one in the upper river, looked very similar to that. Xiaohu jumping over the wall with Splash.
Yeah, they were just missing the equalizer. That landed that on top was like instant.
I'm sure RNG can do it, and it's if that was the result from the earlier play and that didn't happen, then I don't even want to see what happens if he does land the equalizer. And it just comes across. It's going to be Mlxg soloing the dragon as well, and it just seems like a battle of the inevitable for top for the rest of this game. And I look towards game 2, and it's just like they had step 1 in pretty much all of their plays, not just around the Rift Herald, but in bot lane as well. They got step 1. They got the kill, but it never really converted into anything aside from that first blood tower.
Yeah, the composition TOP is playing is really reliant on tempo, so you need to keep the pressure up at all points with the Varus push, and they try to get like towers after towers after towers, but instead in the mid game they kind of traded objectives and they didn't set themselves up for the best scenario for their composition to work, and fighting in open ground is just a big no-no for them.
Do you think that top should actually go for a more straightforward composition, something where they can actually just group up, look for team fights, play it very bog standard instead of forced to play these situations out? As I'm just looking at Mlxg flying across the map.
It's a difficult macro composition that TOP needs to play right here, but I can kind of understand the idea. They actually had a lot of good lanes. Let's see the engage come in here.
Yep, Ming getting caught out, but he is very tanky even for a support. In comes the ultimate, and this is going to be a big knock-up onto 3 players, popping the spell shield as well. Mlxg onto the backline, and in comes Xiaohu with the flank. The only thing now is the equalizer that was placed at the start of the fight, and QiuQiu very much in no man's land. Cat getting caught out on the final part of that fight, and it's just a clean ace, a 5-0, not even remotely close, and RNG will just run it down mid. They've got minions here, they can tank the towers, it's not even gonna matter. 32 minutes on the clock, and RNG, it almost felt too easy for them as they knock down the final Nexus turret and take down the Nexus itself. Game 1 will go to RNG.
And what a clean game here coming from RNG. I feel like they read most of TOP's moves. They understood that what they were looking for was kind of the timing when Letme wasn't guarding the towers with them. They swapped Xiaohu to the side lanes and had the Rumble in the mid lane. And after that, I just felt like TOP could not get any of their sieges off.
That was essentially it, and I wish we had a time machine, and I'm sure top were waiting for that one as well, because that's really what they needed in that game. But moving forwards, is looking at the jungle role, the top lane, because we said at the start of the game, this probably isn't going to be a series that top wins. However, do they look better? And Clement, did they look better?
I feel like they definitely did. I like their draft this time around, and they actually have 3 winning lanes in terms of the gold in the early side of the game. You know, you can kind of fix the macro play later, but what you can't fix is like your general strength in terms of laning.
All right, well, I need a second opinion here, so welcome Raz to the desk. How are you feeling about that game?
Hello, hello, hello. I'm okay. You know, I'm doing all right. It feels like we expected the outcome in terms of RNG taking the victory. Top did take a good start. A lot of the cases, it felt like TOP, the most interesting thing, what surprised me the most was the Varus first pick, of course. They had good wave clear based off of that. They gave away the Ezreal, which was like, I wonder how that's going to be, because it's the most, like, one of the most contested picks in terms of AD carries. But you saw the Tahm Kench come out, good wave clear push on the bottom side of the map. Kudos to TOP. They were able to push out, recognize that Ezreal was underneath tower, and they just ulted top lane and get the first tower gold. That was really excellent from their point forward. But you were right, because what did they do with that pressure, Clement?
They didn't really do much after that. Moyu was caught twice on the bot side lane. I really felt like he needed to understand his role was just to absorb pressure from RNG and let Varus do his pick.
Yes.
And they didn't even siege the mid lane, which is that was such a missed opportunity.
Because that's the thing. The biggest point about Ezreal, even though Ezreal has the highest damage per minute in terms of AD carries, the biggest problem with it doesn't have that high of a win rate. It's like now it's essentially like 40% win rate. Issue is because once you hit the 20-minute mark, then you're actually doing damage. But before that aspect, a lot of the AD carries just do more than you. Tristana just, once you have static shiv, you're wave clearing. Same deal with Varus. So I like the fact that or at least the coaching staff kind of recognized that, baited that, gave it away, and they were able to utilize it earlier on. But you're right. What happened then? Abel was able to get to the 20-minute portions of it, gets 3 items, and he starts dealing a lot of damage.
Yeah. So is this more of a composition thing or a top problem? Because it definitely was a bit of both. As we see the man of the match is Mlxg on his Camille, first MVP for him. And obviously he was just messing everyone up, so pretty easy.
To answer your question, it's a TOP problem because they couldn't get that going for themselves. But the man in front of your face, yeah, he showcases what makes RNG so strong. They had a game plan in minute 1. They had a game plan minute 20. They recognized what they wanted to do. Camille was a fun pick. I mean, me and Rusty kind of saw that in the back. We're like, the moment Camille came out as the first pick, we're like, yes, Mlxg has been playing this on stream. He showcased that that's in his champion pool, so it's a legitimate flex pick for this team. And we saw how he was trying to utilize that to punish Sejuani. But kudos to XX. I mean, he was completely safe earlier on. He was out farming and outpacing the jungle matchup because every single time you saw Camille come up with a ward, trying to find out where he's at, blue buff was already cleared. Raptors was already taken. Unfortunate for XX, it didn't matter too much because mid lane was just getting pushed in constantly, and a matchup that Orianna should be winning, should be out pushing, should be out trading. That wasn't the case. Xiaohu was able to control the mid lane matchup, and you're like, okay, well, I mean, good thing for XX, but at that point you just lost control mid lane.
Yeah, I really like that Vladimir pick because the first 3 picks from TOP were already all 3 of their carries, and none of them had any movement mobility skills. Yeah. So he definitely recognized that situation is like, if I pick Vlad and I make it to the late game, then it's basically just over.
Yeah. However, is this the best iteration of top/Dan that we've seen so far?
I'd say give it a couple more games.
Give it a couple more games?
Yeah, because I feel like Moyu had a good laning phase, but he actually was not pressured that much. So I want to see what happens if, say, Mlxg and Letme are constantly diving that lane. How will XX and Moyu actually react to that type of pressure? Yeah. Because this game, they kind of got a pass, so we didn't see much.
I would say that the only growth we did see was that the quick thinking, or at least the pre-planned point of having Tahm Kench earlier on. That's something we gave Suning a lot of credit for last year, being able to utilize their push and send Tahm Kench top lane. That was the Yoon special. Now it seems like Cat's kind of thinking about that first, because usually for TOP as well, it's team fight first, fight first. If Cat's leaving the lane, he's trying to get a kill rather than trying to create map pressure, rather than trying to get turrets. This timer was different. But the issue was they couldn't go to the next step. They couldn't go mid lane with it. So, I mean, if they had, you already mentioned it, if they had the Rift Herald and placed it mid and were able to utilize that, that would have been an easy tower, especially with how quick pace Varus was. Then it would have been great for them. They would have been able to take much more vision control, but that wasn't the case.
Yeah, missed a golden opportunity. They just finished their Ginsu's Rage Blade. Rumble was in the top lane, and Ezreal was in the mid where you didn't have wave clear. Like, okay, put it in, put it in. Just run it down mid, run it down mid. And they didn't do it, so I felt like, it was a pretty close game.
That's all you've got to do. Is there a single pick on that composition where you think you could change and then maybe it would be different? Because I understand it was very much about the decision making right there. They had the tools and they didn't utilize it. Is there a way to, I don't want to say dumb down the composition, but make it easier to execute for a team like TOP into a matchup like RNG?
Maybe just the GP. Like for me, it feels like a stretch because they had everything, like the tools were there from the jungle to the bottom side of the map. So I would never, as a coach, come in and say, the pick ban is okay. Like, I would never do that. But if you bring in like a tank at that point, then sure, it's easier to execute. Maybe you get you're more confident in diving mid lane or bottom lane, whatever tower they really want to choose. But at that point, you don't even, because that's too much information at that point. You don't want to talk about pick ban, you just talk about that mid lane. And for the next like 5 minutes, however long it takes for them to get back on stage, the only thing you talk about is just go mid, please. That's it. Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much just play the early game out the way that they did, because it did look good. Like, they managed to get the initial conversion. We were like, fantastic. This is the top that we want to see. And RNG, especially because they were taking a more defensive style, I mean, it's like, great. this is the opportunity we can use, but it was never really executed in the end. On the side of RNG, any adjustments that needs to be made? Because to be honest, they didn't need to do anything for the first half of the game, and then he just won.
Pretty much. I actually felt Mlxg was overstepping a little bit too much with his early invades. Actually fell behind 2 camps very, very early, which I felt was kind of unnecessary for him to do. He didn't really need to push the tempo. There was a real chance that he would get punished out of that, but he didn't, so it's still fine for him.
Pretty much
very quick.
With the jungle starts that's going on, it's red to blue, so there's no opportunity for him to come in for an invade. So that's just something he should have known.
Yeah. Well, that's going to do it for Game 1. We're going to take a quick break before we head into Game 2 between TOP and RNG.